The Jazz beat the Lakers as we continue the L.A. portion of the trip. We'll look around the rest of the NBA while dissecting what the Jazz are doing, trying to figure out what the league is saying. And college football for local fans would be all fine if we were still in the Mountain West. It's all coming up next on the L.A. edition of Tip-Off. Bum, 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 bum. He was in the end zone. Bum, 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 bum. Notre Dame got lucky. Stanford got completely screwed. Bum, 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 bam. Plus the Giants lose. It's really a depressing day. But nothing's better than rooting for the Giants around a bunch of Dodger fans that are sitting still doing nothing. How is everybody? Hope you're good. Hope this setup is working. We've obviously been struggling a little bit with the new HD cam on the road, trying to get it done. For those of you on YouTube on the HD cam, there's the lovely view I have out of my hotel room. Quite gorgeous, actually, if I were to swing it around to you. Oh, and if anybody wants to see, there's where I'm living for the next 5 days. Oh, drawer's open. Stuff's on the ground. There's the HD cam and its flexibility of moving. All right, let's get to the fun stuff. Jazz beat the Lakers. Third quarter was really the best the Jazz have played all year long in this preseason. They went on a 30-12 run. It was against the Lakers starters. In the first quarter, the Jazz didn't really look like they could handle the Lakers, frankly. Nash and Kobe and Gasol and World Peace were crisp. They were moving well. Things were very impressive, frankly, on the Lakers' end. And then at the end of the quarter, somehow it was kind of close. Now, they were playing without Steve Blake and without Chris Duhan, and Darius Morris is not ready to be a backup point guard, and the Jazz kind of took advantage of that. And then when they came out in the third quarter, either the Lakers were a step slower, or the Jazz really took it to them, and Utah was really quite a good basketball team in that third quarter. And it was super impressive. They ran, they defended. Favors had a huge impact on the game defensively. They got out in transition. They hit some shots. They seemed to kind of play together and understand each other for the first time. There was a neat play where Mo was leading a fast break, and really it was a 2-on-3. Gordon was coming on the right side. Gordon just stopped. Mo hit him, and he got an open 15-foot jump shot. And it wasn't really a pure fast break because it didn't get to the rim, and it wasn't quite that early offense we're looking for, but everything was right about it. Marvin continues to play very well. It was a good stretch for the Jazz. A lot of people are on Favors a little bit. I talked to him for a while. He said he feels his legs, before the game, his legs were heavy. But watching him last night, or on whatever, against Lakers, it seemed like he had a little bit of his bounce back, as though, and really, frankly, the guys have played back-to-back games and had yesterday off, so they'll probably come out a lot fresher here. Practices are far harder than games for these guys right now. The way they've been practicing, as hard as Ty has been working them, and so the body's been torn down, is now going to recover a little bit, and you start to get a bit more ready to things. Favors has just not developed a great deal offensively, and a lot of our expectations for him to develop offensively were probably somewhat unfair. I mean, we were hoping, that I guess he was going to suddenly come back with a jump shot and back to the basket game, and those are things he's just not entirely comfortable with. He's working awfully hard at it. He is really committed to being great. I mean, that's the one maybe most important thing about Faves is there's no question that his desire is to be great. He was out early with Mike Sanders before the game against the Lakers, working very hard on his post moves. He's just got to be able to figure them out. He may not have great touch. I mean, he's never been a super free throw shooter, and so some of these offensive expectations for him maybe is something he's not going to be able to do. He's a better pick and roll player than he is a back to the basket or face up player, and that doesn't entirely work with the way we use him. We're more liable to try to put him in some sort of post up situation, and maybe we'll see some more early offense pick and roll for him, though he's not catching great around the rim right now in some of the ways that he has before. But I think that's just his body doesn't feel right. So I think he'll come around. The thought I had the other night is kind of funny is his lack of offensive development almost makes it that he has to start in a backwards way, because if the second team unit is Favors and Kanter, as it was last year, there's really no place to go offensively, particularly if Damari is getting some of those minutes at the small forward. That's another non-scorer. It'll be interesting to see how Ty deals with that, because there's an argument to be made that Favors needs to start to complement Jefferson defensively and then Jefferson complements Favors because offensively it's a less of a burden. And then when you go to the second unit, Millsap plays, and there's an argument that Millsap and Kanter might complement each other better. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to do that. I think we'll see everyone getting their time for the next 2 games, likely cuts when we get back, and then the final 3 preseason games, really the final 2 of the final 3, you'll see Ty work the rotation, and then the last game, everybody generally gets a bit nervous, and guys don't play quite as much. Kanter was good again. I'm pushing the caution button on this one, just not that he played badly in any way, but it was against this kid, Greg Samolja, who averaged 3 points and 2 rebounds in 4 years at Santa Barbara, and a kid named Louis Aguilar, who got cut by the D-League Cal State Bakersfield last year. So these are guys that aren't even D-League players. They're frankly not Summer League players. Somewhat insulting by the Lakers to many of the guys trying to make the league that these are the guys out there. But Kanter annihilated them, and that's what Kanter should do. He should annihilate those guys, and you know, I would say that's good. That's all you can ask for him to do. But I wouldn't. Let's not just look at the box score. What was it, 14-14, and take the next step. Here are some things to watch with Kanter. One, he's got to start passing out of the post. He's simply not passing. Teams are going to see it. He's going to start turning the ball over. 2, watch when he rebounds. He is right now able to go high up above with 2 hands to grab rebounds. That is not a skill most guys in this league have. That is where his rebounding is really, really special. And what jumps out to me in that regard, and I think is really, really special, is that if he can maintain that, that's the new body. He's able to get up more. He's able to get up with strength. He's able to clear space when he does it. And the question is going to be, as he gets tired as the year goes on, will he still be able to do that? But that is the most exciting part to me of watching him. Offensively, he's still pretty raw, but that jump shot in transition, he looks better. I'd like to see some pick and pop. We haven't run much pick and roll yet, so we'll see how that plays. The offense, though, is just quicker. We've talked about this a ton. The pace is 1,000 times faster. It's really flowing, and it's changing the shot distribution on this team. Al Jefferson had the most shots the other day, but for most of the game, Gordon Hayward and Marvin Williams led the team in scoring, and Mo Williams was right there on a night where he didn't shoot particularly well. That may be what this team is. The idea that 22 possessions are going to go to Al and everyone's off that, I don't think that's who we're going to be this year. I think there's going to be a real push, get the ball up and move the ball in that fashion, letting Marvin and Gordon play in that setting a little bit more. And then if it's not there, hey, you move into the final 10, 12 seconds of the shot clock, and what Al Jefferson does in the final 10 or 12 seconds of the shot clock is pretty special, because teams don't shoot very well in the final 10 or 12 seconds of a shot clock. And if you suddenly have Al 50% in the post, that's a good spot to be. That's the way to build this offense. And the Jazz have done a really nice job with that. There was a very interesting post on SLC Dunk about the Jazz fading in effectiveness in transition over the last few years. And I'm going to talk to Ty about that. Over the last 3 years, basically the Jazz went from the number 1 transition team in the league to the 24th ranked transition team in the league. And they went from scoring about 61% of their shots in transition to 56% of their shots in transition. And I'll be curious to hear what Ty's thoughts are on why that's happened, how that's happened, and what it means. We play the Lakers on Tuesday and the Clippers on Wednesday. We may see Dwight Howard. That'll be the big story. Excuse me, I'm about to get something caught in my throat. That'll be the large story here in L.A. Wednesday, I don't know what we'll see, because the Clippers have just gotten back from China. So I'm not entirely sure if we'll get Chris Paul and Blake, or if we'll just get a little of them, as they have just gotten back from China. I'll be curious to see. Podcast schedule this week. John Ireland and I will sit down and do a podcast, and that'll be up for you this afternoon. It's about 10 minutes long. Brian Seaman, the Clippers play-by-play announcer, and I hope to get something done with him on Wednesday. Ireland and I really enjoy kind of BS in the NBA. We are going to probably try to, with some regularity, have me just pick up the phone and call him throughout the season and just say, just quick 10-minute BS session about the NBA and just play it for you guys. I hope you like that. All right, Jazz-wise, I think that covers everything that's going on. Practice today, I'll find out if Paul's back. I'm doing a bunch of work from those interviews the other day. I'm tweeting out some of it today, and there'll be some great tweets at Locked On Sports. I'm promoting my own tweets, but do it. Follow them. There's some great notes about the players and things of that sort. Let's see. Around the NBA for you, keep an eye on Sacramento tonight. They play Portland. They're supposedly going with a new starting lineup. I think it will be able to tell us how they use that lineup, where Jimmer fits in, and whether or not this renewed training camp for Jimmer is actually real or not, and whether or not he's really made that next stride that hopefully he'll make in his second year. Just watch how they start it and what they do. Are they clearing space? Is Marcus Thornton starting? And Tyreek and Isaiah Thomas, or are they suddenly bringing back Marcus Thornton off the bench as the backup two, at which point then you kind of wonder how they're using. And Tyreek slides back down to a two. Are they clogging up the guard line, or are they bringing James Johnson off the bench as the starting small forward, thus clogging up the guard line more? We'll see what happens there. There's some talk of whether Jason Thompson would play some more small forward again, whether they're Thomas Robinson, their new draft pick. Just keep an eye on it. It'll be interesting. John Ireland loves Damian Lillard. That'll be in the podcast, but they played him, and he thought he was incredible. Weber State's former point guard. Thought he was Darren Williams. That was just fabulous. So worth keeping an eye on. The big guys are dominating. Big guys are putting up big numbers. Tristan Thompson for Cleveland put up a huge double-double. Some of this is in the preseason is because the big guys in the NBA are so bad already, and then you drop to the second and third tier big guys. Anybody who's kind of that second tier big guy that we're all waiting to see if they're going to explode, the Kanters, the Thompsons, the Osiks, those kind of guys, the Andre Drummonds, the Jared Sullingers are all having these huge days because they're playing. Not all of them. I haven't watched them all. Second and third string guys. So we're seeing universally across the board big numbers. Asik had 13 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 blocks the other day for Houston. They're ecstatic about the way he's playing. Jared Sullinger had 14 points and 7 rebounds. Tristan Thompson for Cleveland, I mentioned, had the double-double. And then Andre Drummond had 19 points and 10 rebounds for Detroit. These are all important numbers because it shows the guys can play a little, but I do think we should probably caution, as we should with Kanter, just, hey, that's what's kind of going on in the league right now, is that a lot of those bigs are putting up big numbers. That's about the gist of the NBA stuff I have for you. College football, I watched BYU get hammered by Oregon State. It was closer than the final score, I know, but they just couldn't match up. Utah, I know everyone's upset with the defense. I thought that game had a chance to be, 42-7. And at this point, for me, watching Utah, and I'm sure Ute fans feel differently about this, I just think you got to stay in games. To me, the Utes have had too many games where the supposed vaunted defense in their year and a half of the Pac-12 has not been able to hold up. 5 of the 12 Pac-12 games they've played so far, they've allowed 30 or more points, and they've gotten run in a lot of them. So I thought it was important they didn't get run. I thought Travis Wilson, freshman quarterback on the road against UCLA, I thought that had the script of being a disaster. But I would say I thought the Utes kind of stayed tough. I know you guys have a higher expectation of that. And it's even the way I feel about BYU. In a lot of ways, BYU should, against at home, at LaVell Edwards Stadium, against a team that's missing their starting quarterback who's playing a non-conference game. I mean, that script was there for winning, and they got kind of run. But just the reality, I mean, it's just those BYU and Utah have been playing in the Mountain West, and we're having a hard time as a fan base equating what that means. Frankly, if you go look at the Sagarin ratings, Utah would be the second. In the old Mountain West, Utah would be second best to TCU. San Diego State is the second best team right now. I mean, it really would be no different than any other year. If you look at the Mountain West Conference, TCU comes out in Sagarin rating 13. BYU is Sagarin rating 30. Utah's Sagarin rating 55. I know Utah won, but just go with that. So if these guys had played a regular year, BYU in the Mountain West Conference would be undefeated, probably had a tough game with San Diego State, who's 67, fiddled around with Air Force a little bit, blown out everybody else that's 100 or worse. Everyone else is even worse than Washington State and Colorado in the Mountain West, and got run by TCU, lost a non-conference game to Oregon State, and they would be, 7-2 and going on to be 10-2 and having another Bronco Mendenhall 10-win season. And Utah would be the same thing, frankly. Utah would have been upset by Utah State in a surprising loss, depending what they did in their other non-conference games, if they played a real non-conference game or not. They, let's say they played one really good team and they lost that. They'd have that surprise loss. They would have beat BYU in their matchup. And actually, I guess BYU would lose to TCU, having lost to Utah, and lose to Oregon State, and they'd be 9-3. And Utah would be going through it, and they'd be playing TCU in 2 weeks on a Thursday night on the Mountain Network, and we'd be all fired up for this huge, big game that's coming up, and they get run by 40. I mean, I don't know, but that's exactly what happened 2 years ago, right, or 3 years ago. So I don't think that, for all this talk and all the discussion about these two programs, I don't think they're any different than where they ever were before. I think they're just playing different teams. I think, Utah's just entered into a real conference instead of playing a conference that's loaded with teams that suck and that aren't capable of beating you on a given day. And Utah better get their wins against Washington State and Colorado this year and maybe sneak one of those other ones out and get their three or four conference wins. But I frankly think this is the reality of, we have rookie quarterback and this. And sure, the quarterback position's been a mess, but as I've pointed out before, Utah has very rarely had a quarterback that is of Pac-12 caliber. And I think if BYU were in the Big 12 or in one of these other conferences, the same thing would be happening. I'm not trying to I hope this isn't pissing you off, but I just think that's the truth. BYU's defense is being classified as this great defense. It's so much better than it's ever been before. And it might be better than it's been before, but frankly, the first time it went and played a team that has any type of offense with its second-string quarterback, with a little help from giving up some points on the other side, they got kind of worked. And if they were playing 7 high-quality opponents, they'd get worked. They wouldn't be putting up those kind of numbers. That's just the reality of strength of schedule. All right, sun is coming out in Los Angeles. It's a gorgeous 80-degree day, and I'm going to go to practice. Hope you're good. Thank you.